check the calendar. It's a Friday afternoon. Okay, it's Green Rush. We're live. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media. And if you don't know, if you haven't gotten a card for your mother yet, you have less than 48 hours because Mother's Day is Sunday. So welcome to another edition of Green Rush Live. And this particular edition will be all about women in cannabis. And when we talk about women in cannabis, we love to welcome in the woman who runs the Women in Cannabis Expo, Brooke Westlake. Hello, Brooke.
Hi, Jimmy. Thanks for having me today. I appreciate co-hosting with you yet again. Here we're going to have an awesome lineup. And just for you guys today, I pull affirmation cards every day. And today my affirmation card said, "We rise by lifting others up." I don't know if you can see this.
I love it.
Blurry, but there you go. And today we are lifting each other up. We're lifting women up. So thank you for having me co-host with you again.
Fantastic. And by the way, as you know, Brooke, you are welcome here at least once a month for the rest of your life, as far as I'm concerned. Okay.
I love it. Well, count me in. I'm in.
All right, fair enough. And we're also joined by two others. And I think one of them is well, Mara Gordon from Aunt Zelda's is here. Hi, Mara. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you, Jimmy? Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, it's always a pleasure. And we also have Chef Mary Adams as well. Chef Mary, where are you from?
Originally Atlanta, but I'm a Florida girl.
So we are coast to coast. That's what I was going for here. This is what I love about doing these shows, is connecting both coasts. We do it on our new show that follows this live webcast, and we will continue to do it. But in this particular case, because it is a Women in Cannabis show, Brooke, I'm going to allow you to kind of dictate the direction of the questions, and I'll chime in when I think I have something worthwhile to say. Is that fair enough?
That sounds totally fair.
Okay, you go, girl.
Okay, well, I'm so glad that Mara and Chef Mary could join us today. I would love for you guys to each give an introduction, to tell everybody how amazing you are, what it is you do. And I think there's some really good synergies there, because I know, Mara, you have created products that have helped patients, children, and a vast majority of people who are turning to alternative medicine. And Chef Mary, you are using it and cooking with it, and we want to know all the things. So I'm going to step back for a second and let you two ladies answer those two beautiful questions. And here we go.
Mara, go ahead. You can go first.
Well, I have been working with cannabis-based medicine for well over a decade, about 13 years now. Yes, I have treated thousands and thousands of patients, over 10,000 cancer patients alone. A lot of pediatric, but a lot of, I was working with a gentleman yesterday who's 86. So it's all over the place. Everyone wants to be helped. Everyone's looking for solutions. And that's what drives me. I made, formulations and all to help these patients so that I could collect the data. I'm a process engineer. And so it's all about understanding, looking for patterns, looking for predictability so I can help more patients. And built a software platform. We're working with doctors, and doctors are using it to help to collect this data. And I don't know how to say no to Jimmy and you when you asked me. So here I am on a Friday, normally not doing on a Friday, but I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to meet Mary.
There you go. All right, Chef Mary, how did you get into this, and what's your little cannabis story?
I like to say that I've been eating cannabis since probably since before we knew we needed to decarb, right? So we would dump the seed tray into the crock pot with spaghetti sauce and throw it in the brownie mix. And sometimes we got high and sometimes we didn't. So since science has become such a big player in cannabis, it really changed my world and changed the world of cannabis as we know it, as far as I can see. I am a classically trained chef. I've been cooking since I was 8, and really moved about 5 years into the healing with food and healing with cannabis and food as a combination. When I moved to Florida, cards were available and hemp became more available and more well-known. And so we were actually able to match cannabinoids and terpene profiles that are in food, along with the protein and cannabinoid and all of those things together. So we make the food more powerful and we make the cannabis more powerful when we put them together. So my initial patient reactions were with Crohn's patients. I started out making, honestly, almond butter for a child who lives in a non-cannabis state, and his mother had no way to continue to afford massive amounts of medicine for him. So we made almond butter with CBD oil, and so she could send him to school with an almond butter and jam sandwich and get him through the day without seizures and other things like that. So it's really, my goal is to heal the world one bite at a time. And that's me.
Fantastic.
You know what, Chef Mary, I think that's a book title for you right there. Healing individuals, people, children, one bite at a time. I think that there's your book right there. I love it.
Thanks.
I love it. And you know, I haven't met you in person yet, and I haven't met Mara in person yet, but I've been talking to Mara for we're going on almost 4 years. And one of the things that you guys probably both don't know is that the year that I met Mara, we met in, it was like during the pandemic, March of 2020. And my life completely changed that year. I came close to dying in that August. I lost a whole section of colon, lost a lot of weight. And I finally went into a dispensary because I had tried cannabis 20 plus years ago and had a very negative reaction to it, panic attack. And I finally was at a point where I dropped so much weight and I said, I need assistance. I went in, and it was the bud tender that educated me. And we need more amazing people like both of you out there educating. I'm literally right now living. It's so funny how my story has come full circle, but I'm literally living right now because of cannabis, because I was throwing everything up and I couldn't keep food down, and my body was not adjusting to the section that they removed from a volvulus obstruction where I came within 3 hours of dying. So thank you both for what you do. We need to continue to spread the word on this female plant as healers, and I just admire you both. And Nichelle joined us. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Nichelle. You want to
Yes.
introduce yourself and say hello to
Yes.
everybody in the room?
Yes, absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. I'm Nichelle Santos, and I'm the founder and CEO of CannaCoverage Insurance. We provide risk management strategies to help mitigate the risks inherent to the cannabis industry, as well as providing insurance services so that one bad day doesn't put our clients out of business. There are many risks out there, whether it's employee theft or external threats, smash and grabs. We have product liability. That's a really big issue. As we look at claims from across the country in more mature markets, we get to see the claims that are coming in, and product liability remains at the top. Proper labeling for products. We've seen a claim where it was a large MSO. So don't think it's just the small mom and pops. It's the larger organizations as well. But process safety management is very important. But this particular claim had it was mislabeled, and it was labeled as a CBD product, and it was a high content THC product and edible. And so 13 claims, one person died, right, because they had other underlying health issues.
Right.
So, whether it increased their heart rate and interfered with another prescription drug, and that person went into a coma and died 30 days later. So the causation of death was complex, but that MSO is on the hook. But 12 other people really got sick and went to the hospital, and they most of them recovered just fine. Just a THC hangover. So we work with our clients to help increase their resilience and their sustainability, because we want them to run a profitable company with public health and safety in mind. So that's what we do.
Hey, Nichelle, it's good to
Absolutely.
see you. It's good to see you not in a trade show.
Yes, good to see you too, Jimmy. And I'm sorry I'm a little late. We were getting a policy bound, right?
Doing your job. That's awesome.
Yes, yeah.
Nothing wrong.
So,
Okay, go ahead, Brooke. I'm done.
another one covered and protected.
There you go. Go ahead, Brooke. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I would love to ask all three of you. And Jimmy, voice your, I'd love your opinion too. I mean, here we are, we're honoring women, we're honoring mothers, and that's fantastic. And the conversation that I think that one of the things that keeps coming up is how to talk to your children. And I have two kids. I have a 13-year-old boy and a 4-year-old boy. Obviously, my 4-year-old has no idea what I do in business and whatnot. My 12-year-old and I have had many conversations about what I do and how it's helping me keep me alive, and he understands that I can ingest it in different ways. And so what are the conversations with your children that have come up, and how have you had those conversations? What's been the most impactful? How do you lead into that discussion when a kid says, I was a dare kid and it was ingrained in my head, it's a drug, it's a drug. And that's also what my son kept saying. And I kept telling him, it's a plant, it's natural medicine, it is helping me in a natural way. So how do you guys do that? And let's start with, we'll go back to Mara, and then Mary, and then Nichelle. And I want to hear how you guys talk to children about cannabis.
Well, how I talk to children is a little different than how I talk to my children. My oldest child is 43. I mean, my kids are a little, in fact, my daughter was using cannabis before I was. So, so the conversation, I do have 7 grandchildren though. And the interesting thing is they are all growing up with cannabis just being another medicine in the medicine cabinet. And that's part of the whole conversation is I always say I'm in the healthcare industry. I'm not in the cannabis industry.
I love that.
Which is very, very different mindset. I'm not in the cannabis industry. I'm not doing SKUs and, all this crap. I am treating patients, getting data, finding out. And as a result of the conversation that I have with children, which I've had a lot. I've had children that their parents were pushing them to use the cannabis because of this. And I had to explain to them that they're not doing drugs. And even, even though drugs, that's a whole nother discussion on whether they're bad or not, or how they're used. But I make it very clear that cannabis is not something that you use on your coffee table in your living room in a group. That has nothing to do with taking your medicine. When you're taking medicine and you're using a therapeutic dose to try to treat a disease, it's like I just say, I don't cart out my Synthroid and my heart medicine to the living room and let's all have a party while I take my drugs. Why would I do that with cannabis? And actually, when it's taken medically, it looks like a medicine, it feels like a medicine, it tastes like a medicine. It's not yummy. No disrespect, Mary. I don't believe that medicine should be in edibles. I believe that's fine for the wellness market. I think that's fine for the recreational. But when I'm treating a serious patient, I need to have consistent metabolism results. I need to have it work the same way every single time. Right. And going through that, that's not that there's anything wrong with edibles. It's just not part of the way that I do it. And as a result, children I'm not handing them a gummy and saying, here, go take your medicine. And then to be convinced that it's a medicine. So I think that the most important thing is to let them know that, I'm about as normal, well, not normal at all, but I'm about as abnormal for the cannabis world. When I started this, and I'm, this old grandma and, giving medicine to newborn babies and all the things that I've become known for over the years. Who's not going to trust a Jewish grandma? I'm not going to, Jimmy's not going to, but
yes, I am.
Who's that?
I'll trust a Jewish.
Okay. And isn't it Bubby? Isn't it Bubby? Aren't you a Bubby?
Bubby.
I'm a Bubby. I'm a Bubby many times over. But I think it's just a matter of having a conversation and treating it like this is cannabidiol, this is cannabigerol, this is the variants. Talk about it in terms of the medicine and not, don't use terms like weed. Don't call it don't use vernacular. And I think makes an enormous difference in the response. And just let children know that they're doing nothing wrong. They're exercising their human right to help to heal their bodies with a plant that's been here from the beginning of time.
And I agree with that so much, because I don't like the word weed. I don't like the word, any of the slang words. And I'm very specific. It's women in cannabis. And I tell people, use the formal language. And I've come down on my son because he's like, Mom, and weed. And I said, don't say that. That's not what it
Mhm.
is. The correct
Yes.
term. I said, you sound uneducated. So I agree with that 100%. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. Do I have to change the name of our news show now? It is We Talk Truth.
No, we'll let it fly with you, Jimmy.
All right.
You're okay.
Fair enough. Go ahead, Chef Mary.
Um, I think in all things, and especially with children, that honesty is where it really counts, right? Because if you are honest and you sit down and you have a heart-to-heart conversation with a child or with someone that needs educating, right? Because that's what we are educators, right? Food's just my medium that I use to do that. So I would say, to me, the most important thing has always been honest. I have, I don't have any little ones around me, but when I had kids and stepkids around me, I was always very honest. And we ended up having all the neighborhood kids at the table because none of their parents wanted to talk about cannabis or what it was or what it did or even what their experience had been. And so I felt like my mother never talked to me about alcohol. So I felt like kind of it was my obligation to be incredibly honest with this group of 9 to 15-year-olds that were around my kitchen table about my use, why I used it as medicine, what it did for me. And I call it cannabis. In my recipe books, it says cannabis. That's the word I use because that's what it is. I talked to somebody yesterday and they're like, it says cannabis. Is that hemp? Is that what I get at the dispensary? What is that? And I said, yes.
All of the above.
Well, only, like the Indians say, only the government could cut the bottom off a blanket and sew it on the top and think that made sense, right? So it's the same thing with hemp and cannabis and all this legal lingo to get around whatever this stuff is to keep us from utilizing something that's been a part of our world and international culture for thousands of years. So I'm just grateful to be a part of a conversation like this, to live in a state where even though we have crazy politics here, I still have the ability to go to a dispensary and get my medicine. And I think it's real important, like Mara takes advantage of the opportunity with children to talk about it as medicine, because I think that takes some of the stigma away, because there are still communities where it's very, very difficult for mom, grandma, even just people our age to consume cannabis in a public or holistic manner. So in those communities specifically, that honest approach, that direct and factual information as a medicinal plant, that really, I think it helps bridge that gap.
Absolutely.
I think you're spot on. Absolutely. Both of you guys are very spot on. Nichelle,
Pressure's
come
on
in,
you.
Yes.
come in hot, girl.
I can see you guys now. I got my glasses and I pulled over. So as, as you may or may not know, I also serve as the New Jersey State Director for Minorities for Medical Marijuana. And I'm a board member of the Coalition for Medical Marijuana in New Jersey. I was very much raised in the generation that this is your brain on drugs. It's a Schedule 1 drug. It's bad. I was an athlete. I ran track for Rutgers. So, never touched it, stayed away.
Yep.
And now I have 3 children, and they are older. So they're 20, 25, 20, and 28. I have 3 daughters. And they've really educated me and that the plant is a medicine, right? And it was my daughter, who's now 25. She said she wanted to get her license here in New Jersey. And I said, well, she wants to make edibles. And she took a course with Sarah Trent at Raritan Valley Community College.
Yeah.
And it was in 2020. So she took the course in the kitchen, while we're making dinner, and I listened to all the courses and I said, oh my God, who's going to protect that risk? But and that's how I really became involved in the cannabis industry, in addition to local legislators asking about insurance in the industry. And now coming full circle, where we're advocating for medical cannabis to become a covered employee benefit, right? If
Yes.
carriers will pay for prescription drugs like opioids, why wouldn't they cover medical cannabis? And then on the flip side, for workers' compensation, would you rather have a doctor prescribe opioids or a THC and then step down to a CBD product? So there's so much science and innovation out there now, and I've run into a company that provides DNA test kits that identify the cannabinoidal system and can correlate to different strains in your body. So innovation is out there, and there'll be different iterations of that type of innovation. So when we know better, we do better, but it has to start somewhere with that science and technology, that innovation, bringing that to the market. So this is all about, STEM research, the science, technology, and educating people and bringing them along. So educating the public to help destigmatize, the plant as a Schedule I drug. I just can't wait for it to come off that list.
Oh,
I think
that's
Mara's
a long
got
line, by the way, of waiting
Yes.
for that. I just want to say, sorry, go ahead.
I think
Yes.
Mara's got a comment on the testing she wants to add. Do you want to add something to that?
Yeah. One of the most unfortunate things that I have experienced in all the years that I've been doing this was when a mother came to me to help her son that had a glioblastoma multiforme A. We figured out what we were going to do. We had enough data to look at the treatment protocol. And then she tells me that she's waiting for the DNA results so that she knew which medicine her son can use. I don't know if you're allowed to say bullshit on the podcast.
Well, you just did.
You just said it.
That is utter bullshit. There is no way to know from a DNA which medicine is going to kill the cancer cells in this child's brain.
Wow.
This doesn't work that way. You can tell from a DNA, and this isn't, Nichelle, I'm not expecting you to be an expert on them, but I am.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that it'll tell you things like propensity for addiction. It'll tell you sensitivity to certain terpenes. It'll tell you all sorts of things like that, but it's not going to tell you which of the 20,000+ different chemovars you should be using to treat a disease. They're making a lot of money, but there's a lot of people making a lot of money doing a lot of things in this space.
Yes, ma'am.
Innovation is fantastic. And at the beginning of any industry, and even though cannabis has been around for 10,000 years, in many ways, it's only the last decade or so that it's really been flourishing, other than just kind of a gray market underground around the country. And as the early money was all on farms and manufacturing, now the money's on data, and the money is going to all these other novel sources of delivery methods like inhalers and things like that. Fantastic. But I think that we need to be really clear that's not the purpose of this webinar, I'm sorry, but we need to be really clear on, just because something's new and has a great flashy thing doesn't necessarily mean it's good.
Right.
Well, let me respond to that. Let me just respond to that, because there's many qualifying conditions that are impacted by cannabis, but we do have to be careful. I agree with you. We're not stating that cannabis is a cure for specific diseases. It can alleviate symptoms. I got the tail end of a Brooke's story here, and her increasing her appetite because you couldn't keep food down, or what your experience is. So I wanted to be clear. I didn't want you to think that I was stating that these things can lead to a cure through cannabis. So there's qualifying conditions. Yeah. And I look forward to the day.
This is DNA testing. This is not, I mean, I know what cannabis does and what it treats and how it works. I mean, I've kind of got that nailed to as best as probably most people these days.
Yeah.
The fact that that's not a good diagnostic to then make a prediction moving forward on whether it's going to treat a disease well or not. That's all I was saying.
All right, I gotta interrupt here, guys, because we're up against the clock, as they say in the webcast
Yep.
broadcast world. So I'm going to interject something, and I'm going to thank everybody, and then I'm going to kind of wrap it up. And I'm going to say this: adults, as parents now, have an obligation to learn about this plant medicine before they talk to their children about it.
Yes.
Don't go on what you learned back 10, 20 years ago, because A, the plant has changed. B, it's still nothing benign compared to that alcohol thing that everyone in our society accepts as part of our society, which to me is, Mara, can I borrow your term? Bullshit. Okay. Anyway, I've got to take a break. I want to thank Nichelle. Great to see you. And
Good to see you, Jimmy.
I'll see
and
you in New
Brooke
York.
and-
I'll see you in New York,
Yes.
1st of June. And Chef Mary, great to meet you. And we're
Lovely.
another
Yes.
panel of amazing, amazing people. I don't know if they'll ever compare to Mara Gordon, but we're really happy that she joined us again. And I love the fact that you're always willing to say yes and come on our show. So I really appreciate that. We're going to take a break. It's after 4:20. So if you're out there, we'll just pretend it's 4:20. Enjoy yourself. We'll be back on the other side with 3 more outstanding women in cannabis. Don't go away. It's a whole new world of weed out there, isn't it? Everyone is learning new ways to titrate, ingest, consume, imbibe, and engage with this plant medicine we call cannabis. Hi, I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media and the host of In the Weeds, and once in a while, the really live business cannabis talk show we call Green Rush on Friday afternoons from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern. I've been a medical patient in Massachusetts for almost 10 years now. I remember my first trip to a dispensary just outside of Boston, and I told the bud tender I didn't want to smoke it anymore. So I tried edibles, then tinctures, then vaping, and now if I'm going to smoke, I only use the Weedgets filtration system. What? The Weedgets.com, Weedgets, that's weed, W-E-E-D, G-E-T-S.com, is where you'll find the planet's coolest product.
Both cool the smoke from 1300 degrees to just 90 into your lungs. Plus, the maze pipe and pre-roll filters get rid of all the gunk that you just don't want in your lungs if you can help it.
Add in the code of PCM TV and you get 15% off. So just go to Weedgets.com and check out the best way to enjoy a cooler smoke with less coughing and hacking and more peace of mind. All that resin and tar is collected in the polyurethane filters that are easy to clean with soap, water, and a few Q-tips. Your lungs will thank you, and so will I.
We are a cultivation through to consumption lifestyle brand for the cannabis industry. Of course, the crown jewel in our product line is the Armoire home grow system. So now with Green Goddess Supply, we can take you everywhere from growing it in the Armoire right through to storing it, consuming it, rolling it, storing it, you name it, A to Z. Our goal is to enable everybody and anybody anywhere to be able to produce their own organic flower quickly, easily, discreetly, and inexpensively.
You would think that it is. However, there's quite a bit of debate right now in the accounting industry when it relates to cannabis with this exact question. I'm part of a few different networking groups that are solely accountants for cannabis companies. And there's been quite a bit of back and forth in those communities and discussion regarding whether 280E, if it went away, if the administration legalized cannabis or took it off of Schedule 1, what would happen? And it could go either way right now. The debate is it can make the accountant's life much easier. That's what a lot of the inexperienced accountants are saying right now, it seems. Whereas the accountants that have been in this industry for a while and have gone through the same thing that happened with hemp a few years ago are saying that it actually will make lives more difficult, because when hemp became declassified a while back, the accounting became more complicated.
Safetiva Labs in Westfield is fast becoming the #1 testing lab for cannabis in Western Massachusetts. Safetiva understands the importance for accurate, on-time test results for your product. That's why their current compliance panel turnaround time is less than 2 days. That's Safetiva Labs in Westfield. For more information, go to safetiva.com.